Dude, could you at least save some of those suds for Aoyuki? We opened this week with Grand Newt delivering their goods to the twins. And after another one of their guys had been taken out by a certain someone, they decided to have this lady in orange take over for him. Yeah, you can tell someone is inhuman when they actually enjoy green jello. Meanwhile, Shoma was down to his last few yen and needed something to eat, so of course he bought some candy. Though, before I could criticize how the show was overemphasizing on the consumption of junk food, especially considering its target audience, not only did he quickly lose his gummies in front of a Yakuza-looking dude, but that same dude then gave him a real meal after Shoma passed out in front of him. You want to perhaps take some notes? Again, I really like scenes like this, as not only is it a very important message to the target audience, who might actually take the wrong message from this sort of show, but also tied in well with Shoma's character, as the Yakuza made him realize that while candy is not something you should eat all the time, it can be enjoyed as a comfort food, like when you just need that little pick-me-up during some very depressing times. This, of course, made him realize why his mother wanted stuff like potato chips so often, because, well, when you're trapped with a family of literal monsters, yeah, I think we'd all like at least some chocolate or something to get our minds off of it. Though in Shoma's case, he realized that he really should save his treats for more special occasions, so yeah, both a good moral and character moment for the guy. It will also play a good thematic role for later in this episode through this idea of indulging. For now though, Shoma ended up showing off his superhuman strength in front of the Yakuza guy, who, according to the credits, is named Yahiko Sujimoto. Seeing this, he decided to invite him to work with him as part-time job. Meanwhile, Hanto was still looking for Kamen Rider Gavv, and thankfully, rather than doing the cliche thing and suspecting that he was a monster like all the other Grand Newts, he started to put together that maybe this guy who was clearly fighting the much more eviler looking monsters might actually be a good guy.
Well, duh.
Of course, he still wanted to find him, as Shoma might actually have had some sort of connection to his mother's disappearance, but good on the show for not making the characters idiots just for the sake of the plot. Hell, this would even end up extending to the characters who were supposed to be ditzy, specifically Sachika from last week, who admitted that after being justifiably shocked when Shoma saved her, he might have actually been a hero. Well, y'all do live in Japan. And again, I must ask, how exactly did Shoma's mother procreate with his father, who had to be a Grand Mutant?
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to!
Back with the misunderstood hero, he and Sujimoto were working as water inspectors and had stopped by some rich person's house. The owner didn't answer the doorbell, which seemed to make Sujimoto panic, and say that they should just bust in to see if the owner was okay. And yet again, before I could even start to complain that this was a dumb move by the characters, as they could get into trouble for this later, we learned what this guy actually wanted out of the super strong Shoma. I swear, this show is designed to make me shut up at every chance. Fortunately, Shoma stopped him and carried him out of the house through the power of stunt doubles, unless Shoma's actor went through a sudden growth spurt. He would later learn that Sujimoto was kind of doing it for noble-ish reasons, in that he wanted to help the boss at his job, who had taken him in and acted as a bit of a surrogate father after he had likely lost his old job. Yeah, fun fact, the Yakuza are a dying breed due to the ever-changing economy, though the same was happening at his current job, so he figured that indulging in some of his old criminal ways would help save the company. And to do that, he took advantage of Shoma's kindness. Really, at this point, he had every reason to ditch this asshole, but he still had one of his Gochuzos follow him. Good thing too, because he again tried to steal from someone, but ended up taking from this week's Grand Newt, who had been working at the food cart from earlier. She had purposely left the money collection box out and unlocked, not just to lure people in, but also to give them at least a brief moment of happiness, which apparently added an extra spice to their treats. Yeah, you could say their victim smiles were kind of like how Simple Rick's wafers were made, and pretty much just as f***ed up. But yeah, just like indulging in too many guilty pleasures like candy, doing this sort of stuff can be quite bad for you, and even leave you with an empty happiness, as rather cleverly, if you pause right here, you can see that most of the money was fake. So Tsujimoto did all of this, try to steal and betray a friend, all for literally nothing. God, I'm really loving the show. Back with Shoma, he did end up eating his gummies from earlier as a means of comfort after being betrayed by someone who he thought was his friend, and it worked, and since he had a unique flavor of gummy, he got a new type of gochuzo. He also reflected on whether or not he should have helped Tsujimoto, and of course he realized no matter what the circumstances, stealing was wrong, especially as it reminded him that he ran away from similarly toxic people in the Stolmark family, though notably, he also said that he was running away from home in that case. Well, anyway, his other gummy friend told him about what had happened to Tsujimoto, forcing him into action. He confronted the Grand Newt, who revealed his true form. Yeah, he was actually a male monster, who probably took on a female form to catch more victims off guard, I guess. This is even though his boss showed him that you can still pull it off, even if you do have a penis. Well, anyway, Hanto also caught wind of their fight.
仮面ライダー今なお三河区の方いるってよ
Nah, it's all fake news, especially during an election year. The ensuing battle was quite good, with the main gimmick being that this Grand Newt could convert punches on its fist into bigger and stronger mace fists for itself. Learning this, they cleverly had Gavv pull his punches and slashes to avoid the fists. As a result, he did have the advantage until the monster started firing its CGI spike missiles. And yeah, the effects here weren't all that great, but thankfully things picked up once Shoma used his new gochuzo that acted as an accessory to his base gummy form.
そうか、パンチにはパンチだ。
Well, actually, you're eating soda gummies, but I guess you could say they have like a punch to them. And yeah, I know these aren't technically gummies, but they're the closest thing I find in my store. And again, while there was a lot of CGI and his blue Hulk fist looked kind of silly, they managed to pull some cool practical effects every time he punched and launched a ton of soda and marbles that I guess were supposed to represent bubbles. That's an awesomely campy effect that I can get behind, unlike this dude's rubber spike fist. From there, Shoma was about to finish him off, and I guess this whole bit of him offering the monsters mercy is gonna be like a catchphrase for the series. Needless to say, this is gonna be a badass moment every time he does it, and even highlights that he doesn't want to do this to his own kind, but he will always fight for the greater good. With that, he released Tsujimoto, who gave him the usual monster treatment, though as he was leaving, he was confronted by both Hanto and this dapper looking fella who claimed to be a Grand Newt researcher. He rightfully ran away from both of these weirdos, though not before the latter had taken a couple of souvenirs. Later, Tsujimoto went back to work, where his boss announced that their company was closing down. He apologized to him for not saving the company, but the boss assured him that he didn't hire him to save anything, and just did it out of the kindness of his heart, kind of like what Tsujimoto did for Shoma originally, but then ended up betraying that trust, and took advantage of him for money that his boss probably wouldn't have even accepted.
ごめんよ、兄ちゃん。
With that though, the episode ended with the twins catching wind of Gavv and taking notice of his unique tummy mouth. Yeah, this is just a really good one-off story that really built up Shoma's character. It really took advantage of the fact that this is a kid's show, meant to tell a lesson of the day, to tell an effective story about what sort of desires you can and shouldn't indulge in all the time. It really goes to show that even if you have to teach a lesson, you can still do it in a very interesting and, more importantly, character-driven way. I think what I really like about the show so far is just how the characters mostly act like real people, even kind of the Grand Newts, as long as you consider addicts people, I guess. Nah, but seriously, I liked how those who are getting to know Kamen Rider Gavv were able to start to realize how he might actually not be that bad of a guy. Sure, there's still people who see Shoma as a monster, but again, that's because they haven't gotten to know him, so it's only really natural. Moreover, they do act like people in the sense that they also make some very misguided choices. I really like Tsujimoto's storyline, with him starting off as a good guy who generally tried to help Shoma, only to then take advantage of him and then receive some much deserved karma when he tried to steal money that wasn't even real. For all of his lectures about not giving in to guilty pleasures, he partook in one of the guiltiest of pleasures himself. Though what really sold all of this was his actor Ryohei Abe, who just went all out, especially with that final breakdown at the end, as he realized all of his mistakes that were literally all for nothing in the end. Needless to say, this was the highlight of the episode, but Shoma also had some pretty good moments, as not only did he remain one of the nicest and yet badass writers ever, we are getting more hints to his past, as well as seeing him mature a little more both in his morality and personal care. Again, I legit really appreciate teaching kids good eating habits that just so happen to have the bonus of leading to some effective character development. And overall, this is just another great episode highlighting this writer's best aspects. If you ever want to indulge in your candies and the like, just remember they always taste better when you actually work an honest job to attain them. I hope you all had a great week, at least better than mine. Yeah, right in the middle of my week, my AC decided to take a few days off because something was clogged up in its drain. Very thankfully, we managed to call in an AC guy on short notice, and he fixed it up pretty quick. As a result, I don't think we lost too much time from our usual video productions, so for the most part, we should be able to get everything done on our normal schedule. So, look forward to all of that. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and if you'll excuse me, yeah, I should probably go eat a salad for dinner tonight.